Hey, and welcome back to another Real Estate Talk podcast. Rob Keilman.
Joshua Britt.
Guys, we have a spectacular interview for you today, and I've been looking forward to this for a very long time, and for good reason. Who I'm interviewing today is Ryan Barone. He is the CEO and co-founder of RentRedi. Now, RentRedi is an app that you can download on your phone or your tablet, and it's a property management type app. So I'll give you a little story. I had a former client. He was looking to move out of the area because he was military. He needed to go to his next duty station. And so when I was talking to him, because I like to keep in contact with my former clients, asked him, what is he wanting to do with the house? Do you want to keep it as an investment or do you want to sell it? He told me, well, I would like to rent it out. I said, okay, well, great. We have property management at my firm if you need it. He's like, I don't need that. I don't need it because I have something else. And I asked him, I was like, well, I'm interested. What do you have? He says, well, I got this RentRedi app. It can help me, get a tenant for my property. I was like, well, you may want to use property management because you could screen potential applicants. He's like, well, wait, you can do that right here in the RentRedi app. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah. So I was kind of taken aback by it. And he was telling me about the price of what it was. I was like, wow, that's way cheaper than what we would have charged you. So I was thinking, okay, this would be really good, especially because home prices have been doing nothing but going up lately. And whenever you're living in a house and you're ready to rent it out, you got to have what's called cash flow, which is what you spend on your mortgage payment versus what you command in rent. That in between is your cash flow. Now, property management, depending upon where you're at, they can have a large percentage of that rent, which affects your cash flow and could get you into some problems if you had something like, I don't know, a huge maintenance fix or something like that. So RentRedi, a fabulous app, I might add. And with that, Ryan, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here too.
Awesome. So Ryan, tell me about RentRedi. How did you get started with that? Where did that concept come from?
Yeah, funny enough, RentRedi all started out of my own trouble, my own pain I was just trying to solve. So a little while back, I was going to school here in New York City at Pace University. I had just gotten my first internship, was going to get to stay in New York, be walking distance from Pace to Goldman Sachs, which was my internship that summer. And that was my time to move out of dorms, get my first apartment. I thought it was going to be this, amazingly simple experience I was going to love, and quickly realized I was not going to get the apartment I had hoped to get. They needed W-2, letter of employment, bank statements, tax returns. We had 2 roommates. All of us had guarantors as students, and we ended up missing out on the apartment. So funny enough, I came away from that experience feeling like, okay, well, maybe I could just build an app for myself and friends. It would make it easier for us to apply to apartments. I'm sure it'd make it better for landlords. Little did I know, I just so happened to be interacting with independent landlords, these individuals that were juggling full-time jobs, owning and operating some properties on the side. And that was their own way to put a kid through college or retire early or just live a little bit better. And they turned around to me and said, Ryan, hey, listen, you've only seen the tip of the iceberg here. Our side is way worse, and it's not just applications. A lot of the time, if we're a smaller independent landlord, we're kind of relegated pen and paper and spreadsheets. And so it makes a lot of manual tasks for us, but it also is creating the experience you're seeing. So make it better for us and better for our tenants as well, and everyone will be happy. And so really, I fell in love with building it for both independent landlords and their tenants. This, what I feel like is still to this day, even almost 8 years later now, an incredibly underserved segment. We get to build something that makes their lives easier to manage truly everything in the rental process today, from listing properties, collecting rent, screening tenants, like you're saying, handling any maintenance, communicating with those tenants, and making a much easier experience for themselves, but making a much better experience for their tenants too. So it's truly a win-win for everybody. And honestly, it's been an absolute joy to get to do it over these past 8 years.
Oh, just a follow-up question. Now that I heard you talk a little bit more about the app, so can tenants pay through the app? Was that right?
Yes, absolutely. So they can pay through the app. They can even, if you have different properties in different areas and you create LLCs to help separate your risk on those, it'll automatically deposit to different bank accounts by property, or even if you're in an area where you are legally obligated to hold security deposits separate from rent, it can deposit to different accounts for security deposits versus rent automatically for you. So it basically gives you a very kind of set it and forget it rent collection suite once you're set up. And it makes a much better experience for tenants because they're getting to pay by credit card or ACH or set up auto pay and never have to open the app again if they don't want to, or even the ability to report their on-time rent payments to credit bureaus. So they're actually building their credit just by paying you when they're supposed to pay you.
Okay, that's awesome. So there was a part of it that you said something about maintenance. You can do maintenance on through the app somehow?
Yes. So the way that we set up maintenance was, it came in phases. In the early days, it was saying, okay, let's just give maintenance requests, period, right? And so that's where we started. Tenants could submit a maintenance request to landlords, and then I still remember to this day, like most of the features on RentRedi, comes directly from a landlord or a tenant telling me their problem. And there was this one landlord that said to us, "Hey, listen, water isn't water. There's a big difference between water that's dripping into a sink, and if I get a call in the middle of the night, I'm going to say, okay, I'll come another day, and something that's just destroying my kitchen floor, and I need to get out of bed at 2 a.m. and come fix this."
Right.
And so he said, okay, so what do you want for that? And so what he told us was, if you could show me a video of the issue, if you could show me a video of what's going wrong, I can understand what that is. And so the first stage that we took was allowing tenants to submit videos of maintenance issues as they were submitting them to landlords. The next step we came into after that was some landlords were happy with that, and they still manage by that practice today. Others said, that's great, but I don't want to do it myself. I have somebody on my team that does it for me. Can I add them into the platform? And maybe even sometimes it's a different person for different properties because they're in different areas, or they have different specialties in terms of what they help me with as a vendor. And so we added in that ability for them to be able to add those maintenance people as they please. And then over time, some people said, hey, I don't want to do it myself. I don't have this maintenance person. Can you give me something for that? And so we actually partnered with maintenance coordination platforms. And this is something that we've kind of implemented time and time again at RentRedi, where we basically went to someone who typically only serviced the enterprise clients, so tens of thousands of units or thousands of units on their platform, and said, hey, why don't you service someone with 1 to 100 units that's self-managing, this independent landlord? And mainly it's hard for the onboarding perspective or to find these particular people. And we said, hey, treat us as one massive portfolio. And we have about $28 billion in assets under management in terms of what landlords actively manage on the platform today. We said, hey, don't treat each of our individual landlords as someone with 1, 10, 20, 50, 100 units. Treat us as one giant portfolio together, and let us get access to that. And that's exactly what we did. So then landlords have the option to go in and enable that maintenance coordination, where essentially if that maintenance issue comes in, it'll automatically delegate out to this maintenance coordination partner of ours, and they'll deal with finding the vendor and scheduling with your tenant and marking it complete. And you still get the oversight of seeing that request in your dashboard, and the status changes over time, but you're not necessarily doing that work manually yourself.
Sounds like a super app to me. So how long has this been around? Now, since I've heard about it, obviously I'm thinking, what, a few years? Is there that more?
Yeah, so 2016 was the start of RentRedi full time. I'd been working on RentRedi as a side project before that, and was basically moonlighting, coming home from work and creating this app that I dreamed would help landlords and tenants. But 2016 was the start of full time of building RentRedi.
Awesome. And it's how's the user base been?
It's been phenomenal. So we, this summer was a huge accomplishment for us. We were named on Inc. 5000's fastest growing private companies in the country. So we ranked 180 on that. And so it was really exciting for us. We had been on the regional list in the past. Last year, we ranked 12th fastest company in the Northeast. But it was really exciting to rank 180th in the country across all businesses. And honestly, it's been a huge testament to the feedback we've gotten from both landlords and tenants on the platform over time, because genuinely it has been how we built the platform. The first 3 years, every single chat, phone call, demo was my co-founder or myself, you were writing in directly to us on our cell phones on our chat, and that was how we developed features. And even though we're not, writing every line of code ourselves anymore, or answering every single chat ourselves anymore, the big thing that we have kept constant over time as our team's grown. Still only about 50 on the team today, so we're still very relatively small and nimble, but have grown a lot from where we once were. The biggest thing that we've kept constant in that is we want this incredibly fast user feedback cycle where we take in input from people, we figure out how can we build something that's better for them and solves problem for both sides of the equation, and then we release that to everyone.
Oh, okay. Awesome. That's what I got so far. Joshua, you got some questions for this man?
Yes. Hey, how you doing, Ryan? It's, I think for most people, they know that the longer they hold their house, it's going to appreciate in value. And so, a few weeks ago, we interviewed the CEO of Bonus Home, which is a totally different concept of where the owner continues to have ownership of the house, but basically they farm out the property management side of it to Bonus Home, and they take care of it. And, RentRedi just kind of brings a different element to the table where it's like, hey, you can have the ownership and you can manage the property. And I think for a lot of people, again, they know that the value is going to go up, but they're scared about the process of renting a house to somebody they don't know. So can you share a little bit about how RentRedi will market the house, how they screen the tenants, and then how does the lease paperwork go? Because contracts is always a scary thing for most people.
Yeah, it's a really good question, Josh. I think that is a completely valid feeling. And I think the biggest answer is knowledge sharing, right? The same reason you do this podcast, or there's forums out there, or RentRedi for software. Our way of trying to contribute to that, and I think you need knowledge from many places, like listening to this podcast. Our way of contributing to that is when you're onboarding to the platform, we try to implement what we internally call smart defaults. So offering things to you by default that we've learned from tens of thousands of other landlords actively managing in all 50 states across the country as best practices. And so coming in, when you're setting up your property and you're going to syndicate it out to different listing services, you enter all of that information once on our platform. We'll syndicate it out to Zillow, Trulia, HotPads, Realtor.com, a RentRedi site you can stick on your own website, or Facebook Marketplace, or anywhere else you'd like. But then when they're going into that screening process, we actually provide you with the default pre-qualification. And so this was built off of thousands of landlords that have come through the platform already, the questions they ask and the things that have been successful for them, so that you get a quick 10 questions to understand, okay, hey, Ryan's got a pet. I don't accept pets. There's no reason for me to spend time with him. Or maybe he, has a pet and that's completely fine. He's in my asset to income range, self-reported at this point. I'm going to continue forward and show them the unit. And when they get through the application process, again, we give you a default application, and that is built off of the backs of thousands and thousands of other landlords that have screened and found great tenants on our platform. And it's asking all of the questions that we would recommend if you were to talk to somebody. That being said, even though you're getting that pre-qualification, that application, and then the full screening, which is going to include asset, income, credit, criminal, and eviction, everything you need to basically decide if this person's the right person for your unit, we allow you to completely customize that. So if you want to change every section, every question in that, you can do so. We even have certain states like California and Arizona, for example, that have very specific templates that they recommend. We actually built in those templates into the platform. And if you say, hey, I want to use the California Realtors Association template for when I'm running my applications on tenants, you just toggle your unit to that. You've switched all of your tenants over to that. Or you say, hey, I want to use, the Josh custom template. You can completely customize that any way you want. So really the way that we built that out is to make it incredibly easy, cutting out that manual work of creating extra accounts on different sites, and try to give you one streamlined process of doing so, give you those defaults, but then give you that flexibility to customize it over time as you get more comfortable and you want to.
Nice. It sounds like you guys have put a lot of thought into this, and I can tell that this has probably evolved over time from trial and error. As with any business that's starting out, you bump your head a few times and you learn from it. So, but for tenants, What are there any advantages for tenants? I'd imagine for a property management company, you get houses, but then you need tenants. Are there any advantages for someone who's looking to rent to use a platform like RentRedi to find their next home?
Absolutely. So from the early aspect of application side of things, it's a really streamlined experience that basically saves all of the information you've ever done on the platform. So once you've done it once, it makes it much easier to apply to any apartment you would need to in the future. But once you're in that unit, and even the maintenance side of things, that's easier for you to have a record of what have you submitted, how long has it been, what is the status changes over time, even keeping in sync with your roommates. If I live with multiple people and I submit it, my spouse knows that I submitted that maintenance issue or not. But then once you're actually paying rent, you have the flexibility to pay with a bank account, a credit card, cash, even if you want to. You have the ability to then, which has been a huge one for us, especially since COVID. So one of the big ones, especially since COVID, has been the asset or the credit boosting feature for tenants. So basically, they're already paying rent on the platform. This gives them the ability to report that to all three major bureaus and basically build their credit. And as a result of that, when they go to get a car loan or a home loan or any other loan someday, they have better credit just because they paid their rent on time, as opposed to necessarily paying that and not really having an impact on the rent. So it's been a huge benefit to tenants, so much so that some landlords even came back to us over time and said, hey, I would like to be able to pay for this for some of my tenants on a tenant by tenant basis. Can you give me that ability? And we've even enabled that. So some landlords are even starting to use that as a amenity to offer tenants when they're listing their property.
Nice. That is a huge benefit to anyone looking to rent. Robert and we're both real estate agents, so there are a lot of places that just rent to people and don't report any of that stuff, so it never helps them and kind of keeps them in that rat race, if you will call it that.
Yeah, I don't know any real estate firm that reports to credit bureaus when they pay rent.
Yeah, it's
might be wrong, but as far as I know, I don't know of anything like that.
No, it's definitely a huge benefit to anyone who's looking to rent to use RentRedi just because of that feature right there. Now for investors, or I
we're
have
also investors.
Yeah, we're also investors, right? So looking to build the portfolio a little bit more. Are you able to share any insights into managing properties more efficiently for those who may be investors or landlords out there?
Definitely. So managing at scale is really important. I think the most critical thing almost any time in business, but absolutely when you're scaling a real estate portfolio, is you need to eliminate manual tasks as much as possible. So being able to set up rules to handle the things that you can delegate to someone or something is really important. And so RentRedi plays its role in that case by allowing you to delegate things like auto rent notifications, where right now you might be with 1, 2, or even 10 units. You can text a tenant if they're late on rent, and that's not a problem.
Through the app. What's up?
Right. But over time, you as you're growing, or even at that scale, that you just want to automate out that manual work, you can delegate that and basically give us the schedule that you would notify your tenant. And you can have that be as customizable as, right as when they're late, or once they get to the grace period, and every day after that, or however you want to customize it, you can. And we'll handle notifying that tenant on your behalf. And that same type of thing essentially applies to every part of the platform in terms of automating out that manual work so you can scale.
I like that because it kind of limit even if you're like a large apartment complex, that sort of eliminates your staff. You need to be on site to ask questions of tenants and everything, where you can have an app where you can communicate with tenants and everything like that. I don't know. I'm not sure how it would do it on large scale, but it seems like there is a pathway. Do you have large scale apartments or something like that also use RentRedi that you're aware of?
Yeah, so the main scale or size that we built it for in terms of who we really set out to help initially was really this 1 to 100 unit self-managing landlord. But the exciting thing that we've seen with it is we have landlords that's in the upwards of 2,000 plus unit portfolios that are managing on the platform today that say, hey, listen, I don't care if you started out trying to build this for 1 to 100 unit landlords. It makes it automate the manual work for me. It makes a better experience for my tenants. It's one of the few that was, if the only, that was really built mobile first with tenants in mind, which becomes critically important as you're trying to retain those tenants and have them renew leases. And so we've seen people honestly start with us with as little as one single family home and scale to 30 plus. We've seen people come in with 7 and go to 150 in 2 years. We even have landlords on the platform that are managing over 2,000 units. And so it's really, exciting to us to be able to look back and have those conversations with them and say, a couple of years ago you were at, 1, 2, 30, 50, whatever it was, and you're at 2x, 5x, 10x that today. It's exciting for them, but it's exciting for us to be part of their journey in growing that portfolio.
So now, without naming anybody, but I could easily see a scenario in which a property management company could come to you all and say, "Hey, we got a portfolio of 5,000 units that we manage. Could we just bring them all on your platform?" Do you know of any property management companies, without naming anybody, that may be using RentRedi as to manage their properties?
Yeah, there are some property managers that use the platform as well. Even though the independent landlords were the ones that we initially set out to use, we definitely have property managers on the platform that say, "Hey, listen, you have this teammate feature." In fact, a feature request that came from them that we implemented was view-only owner teammates. So basically, property managers that were using the platform and said, "I don't want to export and send reports to my owners anymore. Can you give me the ability to add them to view whatever they want just for their particular property?" So they can't see, if I'm managing, hundreds or even a couple hundred units across multiple different owners, I'll invite them to their 1, 2, or 10 units, whatever they own. They can go in and see if rents collect on time or maintenance issues, whatever they want to see, or portions of that if I want to segment it out. And then I don't have to export anything to them ever again. They see those rental collection rates. So we have property managers, on the platform. And in fact, we even have some that started as landlords on the platform, and then they scaled their own portfolio and then realized, "Hey, I'm pretty good at this. I could keep doing this for myself and maybe do it for some other people too." And so they keep their properties, not shared with anyone. And then the other people that they end up sharing those additional units with, they just add in to view the pieces that they want them to.
It's funny. We just interviewed the CEO of Mogul. I wonder if you two should talk, because they sell fractional shares of properties, of residential real estate. And if somehow they can use your app too to save some money, increase cash flow, even if it's a small margin, it still helps, So I don't know.
Yeah, so I got another question just came to mind, so with the rise of AI, is there anything that RentRedi is doing, new technology, or do you see any way that AI kind of could be used in your industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there can be applications over time. I think right now it hasn't gotten consistent enough. I think you still have what's considered hallucinations basically with that, where basically mistakes or being fed bad information that leads to then additional bad decisions. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it can be broken down into what you want AI to do for yourself is basically follow a set of rules. Just like if I were to be, joining and you were saying, "Hey, Ryan, I'm going to delegate all my manual tasks to you. Here's what to do. On this particular day, I want you to send out late notices. On this particular day, I want you to start accruing these late fees and apply that to the rent amounts that people have paid in." Basically, we're giving people the ability to set up those late fee schedules, set up those late reminder schedules. Honestly, you can set up lease schedules so that if you say, "Hey, at the end of this lease, I want it to convert to a month-to-month with a 5% bump ongoing until this tenant decides to leave," we're letting you build all of that in. And so you can really automate so much to the platform and really customize it that, the intention is to keep it very simple when you're first starting so that it's not overwhelming when you're first starting out, but the ability to customize that and implement ultimately what AI would allow you to accomplish there, which is get rid of any of the manual tasks that you can write down and delegate to somebody.
All this sounds really good. So I think for most people, if anybody's watching in or listening, I think the question that they would have is you provide so much value to the process the price tag has to be high for you to provide this much, benefit to the landlord. Are you able to share that with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So that was honestly one of the most important things for me early on. I talked to a lot of landlords, and my co-founder and myself both talked to a lot of landlords and asked, why have you stayed on pen and paper and spreadsheets outside of, it not being built for you? And a big part of it was the cost, the prohibitive side of things. And so what we basically did was say, you'll have a flat fee that's affordable to anybody. Even if you have one single family home you need to rent, we want it to be affordable to you. So it's basically for our annual plan, $12 a month, $144 a year. It is a fraction of what you would ever pay doing anything else. And we're automating so much of that process for you. And the way that we've been able to accomplish that was, and again, another flip side of this was, we didn't want to build a business model where we wouldn't scale with you and be with you for an extremely long time. And so that was a commitment we had to our landlords. And the way that we accomplished that was by building this community, hundreds of thousands of units actively managing all across the country, and being able to turn around to people like TransUnion or these maintenance coordination platforms or these listing platforms and say, treat us as this one massive portfolio, discount us in the process. We'll still pass through discounts to landlords and tenants as well, and we'll make some money on the spread. And so while you're not directly paying anything more as you scale on our platform, we will generate more revenue with you. And so that's our way of scaling with you without costing you anything more. And so it really makes it a win for landlords, for tenants, for ourselves, that we're incentivized to help you continue managing more, automating more, and growing more. You get this platform that basically handles everything you need for a fraction of what you ever would have paid any other time, and your tenants are getting such an elevated experience from what they had previously that they're enjoying living in your unit. They want to stay in your unit. They want to renew there, and that's ultimately what we want for you to do.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. You got me rethinking my processes right now. I'm like, for the price is staggering. I pay more than that for just 1 month of service from a property management company than what someone on your platform would pay in a whole year. That's just unreal, unbelievable. But if I hadn't heard it from you, I would probably question it myself. It's just as well. I think that's about all that I have.
Okay. Well, Ryan, is this probably about wraps it up? Is there anything you would like to add, or anything you'd like our listeners or viewers to know?
I think the only thing would just be, we're a friendly bunch. If you ever visit us at rentredi.com, and we spell it weird because we're a startup, REDI.
It's catchy.
You can always chat in and message us. Honestly, we love chatting with people, even if it's just to ask questions or like Josh said, you want to revalidate anything anytime, you can always ask. We're happy to chat with you, hop on the phone, or anything else you need.
I did have one more question come up while you were speaking there. For somebody who's listening and thinking like I am right now, how quickly can I integrate with RentRedi with my current setup that I have? So I already have properties underneath a property management company. How quickly could I take that portfolio and bring it over underneath RentRedi?
Yeah, honestly, setting up even like a 2-unit property, you could set up on the platform in 5-10 minutes if you have all the information in front of you. You don't have to set it up all in one go. If you want to take your time and step through it, that's okay. But it's extremely quick to do.
Nice.
All right, everybody, that wraps it up. Thank you, Ryan, for joining us today. This has come to pass as our 1-year anniversary for Real Estate Talk Podcast. 28,000 subscribers. I couldn't believe that. We started off with 0. We didn't pay for any views. We didn't pay for any bot followers or anything. So we started low and slow like a brisket, and we're already at 28,000. We think in year 2, we're really excited. We're going to get some studio upgrades for you guys, better camera gear, everything as time goes on. We're hoping by this time next year, we're looking at 100,000 subscribers. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Give us a like. Let us know how we're doing. Leave a comment below. Let us know what you think about RentRedi, and see if you're going to use that for your rental needs. Highly advise it, especially if you want to save some money and you want an all-in-one solution to what you're looking for. With that, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you soon.